Hey, Shumi from Overdrive, and today we have with us the brand new Duke 250 for 2017. It's the new motorcycle entering the range this year, and it sits between the 200 and the 390. We haven't ridden the 390 yet as I do this video. Let's quickly walk you through what's new on the Duke 2017 250. So the first thing that will strike you obviously is the visual design of this. It shares the design with the 390, and to me that has two strong advantages. First, it's a steel tank now. I honestly don't care if it's steel or plastic anymore, but this is a 13.5 litre tank, which means your highway range just went up by between 50 to 80 kilometers depending on how you ride, and that's a substantial amount, because the old Duke 390, the biggest challenge it had out on the highway was the fact that the fuel stops were too close. So both the 390 and the 250, 13.5 litre tank, it's a big change as far as I'm concerned. The second change, also highway oriented, and if you're not a slim person, was the old bike didn't have space. The seat was actually quite short. This is a longer seat, and the fact that the tank panel moves straight away like this rather than curving out like this and blocking your knee off means you can sit quite a bit forward or quite a bit back. There is some amount of space to move around. So in that sense, this is a more spacious motorcycle. The pillion pad I haven't checked out, so I can't tell you if this is more spacious if you're two up, but it promises to be an interesting motorcycle to ride in that sense. Now, since we're still talking about the seat, I'll also tell you this. You sit on this motorcycle, your chin is practically on top of the meters, and remember, these are the old meters, the ones that debuted on the 2017 RC390, identical to the KTM Duke 200 2017. The TFT display that everybody's been wowed about, only want to come on the 390. So you sit really far up ahead on the motorcycle. It feels really good to sit like that because you feel a lot more of a connection. And you have to remember that underneath the styling is this is the split trellis frame, as KTM likes to call it. Essentially the subframe is now bolted on. No really major advantage as such, but you do have to realize that if you have a crash, if you get rear-ended for example, and your main chassis is okay, then KTM is going to be able to just replace the subframe. So that's a little bit easier to live with. Underneath that, on the chassis, no major changes at all. The steering geometry remains the same, the swing arm length, etc., they all remain the same. But this bike has the same new suspension as the KTM 390. Now, we rode the bike at the racetrack today, and my first impression is this suspension actually does a much better role, much better job than the 200. The front travel has fallen 8 mm, but to me it's not really a problem because now it's sophisticated suspension that knows what it's doing. So when you go over a bump, you have a sense of control, you have a sense of almost plushness about it, although it's not like a soft motorcycle by any means. It's still pretty stiff. I'm going to be watching the ride quality very closely when it comes for a road test because I think it's going to be a good one. Now, the wheels also shared with the 390. Unfortunately, you get MRFs on this. It's a cost thing, I think, not the Metzlers. Now the MRFs, they're really good tires. They suit the motorcycle quite well. Metzlers would, take it to another level altogether. But overall, it's a very happy motorcycle in the corners. Ride quality seems better, and generally comfort level seems better. It's a little sportier to sit on than the old one, I think. Now, the engine, it's a new engine based on the new 390 engine. It gets the slipper clutch, does not get ride-by-wire, but it is fuel injected, liquid cooled and all of that. 30 PS it makes. You can see the can, that's BS4, thank you so much. There is no weight reference for this class because there wasn't an old 250, but obviously if there was an old one, the weight would have gone up a little bit. But the point is, when you ride it, the big difference is not in the numbers or the weight of this motorcycle. The big difference is this is a very smooth motorcycle compared to the old one. So when you ride them back to back, you suddenly realize that at 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, there's almost no vibration anywhere. The engine's really quiet. It's a really nice space for this motorcycle to be, and it's actually quite torquey as well, so you don't really have to go to 10,000 to get all work done. 5, 6, 7,000 is a very good set of RPMs to be at, and in that sense I think it's calmed the Duke down a little bit. A lot more people are going to be able to use this motorcycle, and in that sense it's a slightly more mature product, it's a slightly more sophisticated product, and more importantly for KTM, I think it's a product that's going to appeal to a lot more people. So all in all, it's a good update. The price is actually quite good, 1.73 lakhs for the 250. I think it's a reasonably priced motorcycle like all the Dukes have been before. I will say this, it's 30,000 rupees more than the KTM Duke 200. It's certainly a vastly improved motorcycle than the 200. So if you can stretch your budget, you should stretch your budget and get this. But then if you're buying the 250, and honestly telling you, I have not ridden the 390 yet, maybe you want to go test ride the 390 and see what that's like, because the price difference from this to that is 50,000 rupees. Not a lot of money in EMIs, and we know that the 390 is a monster. If it's this kind of refined, it has this kind of torque and ease of use, this kind of sophisticated suspension, the new 390 is going to be very interesting indeed.